All right, shall we move on now to Cittanupassana?
Katanchapana bhikkhave bhikkhu Citte cittanupassi viharati Itta bhikkhave bhikkhu Saragam va cittam Saragam cittanti pajanati Vidaragam va cittam Vidaragam cittanti pajanati Sadosam va cittam Sadosam cittanti pajanati Vidadosam va cittam Vidadosam cittanti pajanati Samoham va cittam Samoham cittanti pajanati Vidamoham va cittam Vidamoham cittanti pajanati Sankittam va cittam Vikittam va cittam Mahakkatam va cittam Amahakkatam va cittam Sauttaram va cittam Anuttaram va cittam Samahitam va cittam Asamahitam va cittam Vibuttam va cittam Vibuttam cittanti pajanati Avimuttam va cittam Avimuttam cittanti pajanati Idi achattam va citte Cittanupassi viharati Vaittha va citte Cittanupassi viharati Acchatta bahittha va citte Cittanupassi viharati Samudaya dhammanupassi va Cittasming viharati Vaya dhammanupassi va Cittasming viharati Samudaya vaya dhammanupassi va Cittasming viharati Atti cittanti va Panassa satipaccupattita hoti Yava deva jnanamattaya Patissati mattaya Anissito ca viharati Naca kinci loke upadiyati Evam bhikkho bhikkave Bhikkhu citte cittanupassi viharati Cittanupassana nittita
Okay, can you please turn to page 52? We would like to make a correction on the word concentrated and unconcentrated at the bottom of page 52. Can you please change it to composed and uncomposed? Okay, looking at this Cittanupassana, Here it looks like it's more impersonal in nature, because in Kayanupassana there's a lot of I, right? A lot of direct speech in the first person. I am walking, I am breathing in long, I am breathing in short, and so forth. But here, surprisingly, there's nothing related to the I. You don't say, for example, if you compare this with the Nivaranas, the first part of Dhammanupassana, just 2 pages down, page 56. In the second paragraph, there is a sensual desire in me. Can you see that? And the me is there, the I is still there, Whereas here, it's like very impersonal. And we don't really know whose mind he's referring to. Right? Is it your own mind or somebody else's mind? Professor Kwan Zhefu has made a research into this, and he found that this is a stock phrase or stock passage that is found in other suttas, and they refer to actually the reading of somebody else's mind. Yeah, okay, let me read it to you. He says, I would like to point out that this passage itself does not specify whose mind is being contemplated. As far as I'm aware, in all contexts, except for the Satipatthana or this Satipatthana Sutta, this passage is preceded by the sentence, he understands, or may I understand, or I understand, or you understand the minds of other beings, of other persons, having encompassed them with his, my, your, or my own mind. Which makes it clear that this passage denotes the ability to understand others' minds. Without this sentence, the meaning of this passage would be very vague, in that we cannot tell whose mind it refers to. Do you get what I mean? This whole passage is a stock passage that occurs in other suttas in the context of reading other people's minds. Right? So here, what he's saying is that this is actually another copy and paste job. Copy and paste somewhere else into here. So here, that's why it's not really stated whose mind it is. In any case, we can still use it to watch our own minds. Right? Whenever we have any mental states that arise within us, we can identify it as accompanied by greed, or with lust, accompanied by lust or anger or delusion, and so forth. Let me explain a few of these terms. It says a mind with hatred, with or without lust, with or without hatred, with or without delusion. Okay, lust here is a very strong word. In English, when we use the word lust, we normally refer it to sexual lust, but not necessarily so. Lust means an intense desire for something, right? An obsessive desire for something. However, it may not necessarily be also something very intense. As the nature of lust is, it clings on to something very strongly. Right? So the nature of clinging on to something, sticking on to something, is covered by the word lobha, usually, and it's usually translated as greed. But the nature is that it attaches to something, it clings to something, it desires something that it does not have, and once it has it, then it clings to it and refuses to let go. Okay, that is the nature of lust, or nature of greed, or whatever you call it, attachment. Hatred is the opposite. Hatred or aversion, dosa, refers to pushing something away. Don't like something, want to push it away, hitting at it rather than sticking onto it and clinging onto it. You want to get rid of it. Okay? And delusion is when you're not able to differentiate or distinguish the three characteristics. And this happens most of the time. Whenever you are not aware that whatever happens to you at any of the six senses is anicca, dukkha, and anatta, then you are deluded. Right? Which means to say, whenever we have this sense of self, I am doing something, this is mine, this is myself, this is image of myself. Whenever we have any thoughts, that means you are deluded. So how many of you can be freed from such thoughts? So, but interestingly, the moment you realize that that is a deluded mind, that time you have wisdom and you are undeluded. Okay, so it's good for us to reprogram our mind, to reorientate our sanya, our perception, to look at things in terms of anicca, dukkha, anatta. That's very important, because according to one sutta, in the Pottapada Sutta, in the Digha Nikaya, one Brahmin asked the Buddha, very specifically, Bhante, not Bhante, it's Master Gautama, which comes first? Does sanya comes first followed by jnana, or jnana comes first followed by sanya, or both of them are simultaneous? Right? Sanya is perception, jnana is knowledge. Does sanya or perception arise first followed by jnana or knowledge, or does jnana arise first followed by sanya, perception, or do both of them arise simultaneously? And then the Buddha very categorically said that sanya arises first, followed by jnana. Okay, so that's why in the suttas the Buddha very often asks the monks to cultivate, develop the sanya or perception of impermanence, of suffering, of not self, of non-beauty, and so forth. So it is a deliberate manipulation of the mind, It's not something totally objective. Philosophers of science admit that there's no such thing as objectivity in science, because there's always a subject doing the experiment. As long as there's a subject, it's going to be subjective. The scientist has got his own axe to grind. He's got his own theories, his own hypotheses, and he's conducting an experiment to verify his hypothesis. And he just wants to look at it in a certain way. So we also admit that in Buddhism, there's no total objectivity. We are trying to look at things through the filter of anicca, dukkha, anatta, and conditionality. But it's a good filter. Just like photographers, they use filters to get a good photograph. We use our Buddhist filters, to get less suffering, more contentment, and more happiness in life, and eventually to be free from suffering. Okay? Okay, so watching the mind is very easy, and another reminder is that apart from the first exercise in Kayanupasana, which is on in-breath and out-breath, none of the other exercises until here, until the end of the Satipatthana, of the Dhammanupasana, did the Buddha specify any particular posture. It doesn't mean that you must sit with the eyes closed in order to watch your mind, right, or your mental states. You only sit with the eyes closed. He didn't even specify that you should sit with your eyes closed when you're doing anapana. He just says that you sit cross-legged with the back straight, go to a secluded place in the forest, at the foot of a tree, right? Back straight, establish your mindfulness as a priority before you, and then remember that you're breathing. Okay, that's the only exercise that specifies the posture, and the others don't specify. The second one, of course, specifies, when you're walking, you're walking, sitting, you're sitting, standing, you're standing, and in whichever way your body is disposed, you know it. All right, so this can be practiced all the time. You can watch your mind anytime, not necessarily only when you are seated in meditation. All right? Okay, let's go on to the next one, which is about a contracted mind or a distracted mind. A contracted mind is explained in the commentary as sloth and torpor, a mind that is drowsy, contracted, not willing to work. And then a distracted mind is one which is not focused and is all over the place due to restlessness. Either the distractions happening right at the moment, or distracted by random thoughts or obsessive thoughts. An exalted mind it normally here refers to a mind that has attained the jhanas, and unexalted mind is a mind that has not attained the jhanas. A surpassable mind refers to a mind that has attained a state but which can be surpassed. It's not yet the final stage. And an unsurpassable mind is the highest that you can go. You cannot go beyond that. And then a composed mind is a mind with samadhi, and an uncomposed mind is a mind without samadhi. We have decided to translate the samadhi as composure instead of concentration. I will talk more about it later. Page 54, he knows the liberated mind as a liberated mind. Liberated here may mean the liberation of an arahant, or it may mean temporary liberations. The Buddha also described the jhanas as temporary liberations, as well as metta, the development of metta as a liberation as well. So you can also look at it in terms of liberation from the hindrances. If you are temporarily liberated from the hindrances, you also know that it is liberated. Not liberated means you are still being troubled by the hindrances. That's at the lower end. Okay, here the word for mind is citta, right? But in the Pali canon, there are three words that are used that are related to the mind. And all these three words can be found in the Satipatthana Sutta. Here we are dealing with the word citta. But later on in Dhammanupassana, particularly on the 5 khandhas, on the 5 aggregates, you will come across the word vijnana, right? Consciousness. And also in the section on the 6 sense basis, you will come across the word mano, right? Which is translated as the mind or the intellect in our translation. So now I'm going to show you a rough idea. This is only a very rough idea, of how these 3 terms are used in different contexts in the Pali canon. Okay, first, the mind, the citta. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha says, monks, luminous is the mind. It is defiled by visiting defilements. And for the uninstructed worldling who does not know this according to what has occurred, there is no mental development. There's no citta bhavana. And then he goes on to the next sutta, which says, for the instructed or informed disciple of the Noble One who knows this according to what has occurred, then there is citta bhavana. What he's saying is that the defilements don't belong to you. Defilements don't belong to the mind. They are just squatters, coming in to squat in the mind. But because they have been squatting there for so long, what do you do when you want to evict squatters? You have to pay compensation, right? That's why you have to go for retreats. You have to go for retreats, compensate them, and evict them. So defilements are outsiders who come in to squat in the mind. The mind is actually intrinsically pure. That's why the Mahayana say that there is the what you call the Buddha nature, which is not really a very good translation, because the word in Pali, in Sanskrit, is Tathagata Garbha, which is the womb of the blessed, of the dust gone, the womb of the Buddha womb, Or you could say it's a Buddha potential, I guess. Alright, then we have another word that's vijnana. It's part of the 5 aggregates, consciousness. And vijnana and citta has overlaps. Vijnana is referring to the 5 sense consciousness normally. We talk about Chakku vijnana, Sota vijnana, Gana vijnana, Jiva vijnana, and Kaya vijnana. Eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, and body consciousness. Right? These are the 5 sense consciousness. It also refers to the mind consciousness, and the mind is called mano, translated by Ajahn Thanissaro as intellect. You see, it is parallel to the eye. The five sense consciousness have their five sense bases, have their respective sense organs, right? Eye consciousness has got the eye organ as its base, ear consciousness has got the ear organ as its base, etc. Then mind consciousness also has mind as its base, as its organ. So the mind is an organ for mind consciousness. So we have mano and we have mano vijnana. Now, the word chitta is used, we will come to a more detailed analysis of the chitta in the next few slides. But I will tell you that the word chitta is used in the suttas sometimes or many times to mean like a split personality within yourself. You know, it's like sometimes you can see these narratives going on, you know, where the bhikkhu chides himself. They say, hey, Chitta, I'm not going to listen to you. You have been pulling me by the nose for a long time, you know, what do you call, seducing me to do this and that. No, I'm not going to listen to you, and I'm just going to practice the Dhamma. It's just like us, you know, sometimes we have this good and bad sides of us, Dr. Hyde and Mr. Jekyll and Dr. Hyde, you know, with the evil side and the good side. There's always this argument going on whether you should do this or not. You know, the good side will say, hey, don't do it. The good side, the other evil fellow will say, why not? Enjoy first lah. We can meditate later, what? Okay, so these two are always fighting with one another. So the bad guy is called Chitta. So I'm Aggacitta. I'm the worst bad guy. Okay, anyway. So the mind can actually, in the suttas, the chitta can think, can feel, can plan, can scheme, can lure you to do things that you don't like to do. All right? And the chitta can also be developed, can be purified, can become a good guy. Right? So that is what the chitta is used like in the suttas. It's like the mental aspect of a person. You know, the word vijnana is more specialized. Vijnana, if it's used in the context of the five khandhas, vijnana is like a dum-dum. You know, it doesn't think, it doesn't feel. Vijnana only knows. It's what we call bare awareness, barely knows, bare cognition. Yeah, like the ear only hears a sound. It's not able to differentiate what sound it is, who is making that sound. No, that is done in the mano. No, mano vijnana is the one that thinks. Yeah, that is doing all the thinking inside the mano. The five sense consciousness are dum-dums. They only receive bare data, that's all. They don't know how to interpret it. The interpretation goes on in the mind. Okay, so in the context of the five khandhas, the vijnana is just bare cognition. And in the context of the six sense bases, internal and external sense bases, mano vijnana, mind consciousness, it's not internal and external sense basis, because that will just talk about the mano and the dhamma, the object. It's the 18 elements. The 18 elements are the six sense organs, the six sense objects, and the six sense consciousness. Okay, in that context, mano vijnana is the thinker, is the one that thinks. Okay, there's one sutta called the Unnava Brahmana Sutta, found in the Samyutta Nikaya, where a Brahmin approached the Buddha and asked him, Master Gautama, the five indriyas, the five faculties, you know, the eye, the ear, the nose, the tongue, and the body, each of them have their own objects, have their own resorts, their own domain, which means, and one cannot perceive or experience the other's domain. Right? Not the eye can only see colors, cannot hear sound, cannot smell smells, cannot taste, cannot feel sensations. Then what is it, or who is it that is able to experience all their domains. So he's a Brahmin, you know. So the Brahmins or the Brahmins believe that there is an Atman, you know, a self that is the one, the experiencer of everything. Now, the sense basis, the five senses are very stupid. You know, they only know their own object. They cannot know somebody else's object. You know. But then, in order for this person, that individual to function, there must be someone behind it to take charge, right? So who is that who is experiencing everything? So the Buddha did not say that there's a person, of course, because there's anatta. So the Buddha says, Mano. You know, Mano is that which experiences all these five sense objects, yeah, the domains of these five senses. Actually, his question is a two-pronged question. Who experiences these separate domains of the five senses, and who is their refuge? And the Buddha says, Mano experiences all their domains, and Mano is their refuge. Why is Mano their refuge? Okay, before we go on to that, then after the Buddha answered that, he said, okay, good, Mano is their experiences all their domains and is their refuge. Then, what is the refuge of Mano? Then the Buddha answered, the refuge of Mano is sati, mindfulness. Then he went on to ask, what is the refuge of mindfulness? The refuge of mindfulness is vimutti, liberation. And then what is the refuge of liberation? The refuge of liberation is nibbana. What is the refuge of nibbana? And then Buddha said, stop, you've gone too far. He keep on asking, you've gone too far, because nibbana is the summum bonum of the holy life. You know, that's what the holy life is meant for, to achieve nibbana, and you cannot go beyond that. There's no more refuge beyond nibbana. Now, how you understand that? This is how I understand it. Why is Mano the refuge for the five senses? Because the five senses, they mind their own business, right? Not the eye only sees; it doesn't care what the ear hears, right? The ear only hears; it doesn't care what the body senses. So if each of them were to do their own thing, how is the organism going to function? Right? Cannot. So that's why the mind, the Mano, is the coordinator of the five senses. The Mano is the one that is like a CPU, you know, is receiving all the data, and he's got all the programming and all the encoding inside there to how to piece together all this information and how to act in the best interest of the organism. Right? That's why it's the refuge. Okay? So why is sati the refuge? Maybe we'll do it after the workshop. Okay, let's go on to the mind first. All right, so the mind here, the Mano here, is also a mind organ and a coordinator of the five senses. Now, the word vijnana is also used as one of the links in the dependent origination, right? Yeah? You don't see citta there, you don't see Mano there, but vijnana is there as one of the links when we come to explaining how rebirth takes place. Because in Buddhism, there's no soul, right? So there's no transmigration of a entity from one existence to another. So what is used to link together one existence with another is vijnana also. But this vijnana is not the five sense vijnana, and is not just the mind consciousness. You know, it refers to the totality, the mental totality of that phenomena. Sometimes the word citta is also used like vijnana, in the sense of linking rebirth, but not as often as vijnana. Okay. Now, to give you a more detailed analysis based on one European, I don't know what is Danish, probably a Danish, Dr. Rune Johansson. All right, he he made a survey of the words Chitta, Mano and Vijnana found in the Pali Canon. In those days, that was a long time ago without computer, so I really admire him. Now it's so easy for us, you just key in the word Chitta and then you just click and then you can find it everywhere, in any sutta, in any commentary. But in those days, there were no computer data available, so I don't know, he has done really a lot of research and he came up with about 240 entries, from different parts of the canon, showing the different contexts in which Chitta, Mano and Vijnana were used, and this is his conclusion. You come across contexts where you say the Chitta and the Mano are developed, but you never seen the Vijnana being developed. The mind, the Chitta and Mano are defiled, but not the Vijnana. Chitta and Mano are purified, but not the Vijnana. Chitta and Mano can be restrained, but not Vijnana. Chitta is liberated, but not Mano or Vijnana. But all of them are conditioned phenomena, and all of them exhibit the three characteristics. Then, of the 5 aggregates, Vijnana is found there, but not Chitta or Mano. Although you could say that if you subclassify the 5 aggregates, it's still under Mano Vijnana. As a sense organ, only Mano is mentioned. Chitta and Mano can think, but not Vijnana. Then in terms of personality, just now I talked about Chitta like a split personality. Then very rarely is Vijnana used also in terms of a personality. In terms of sentience means having consciousness. Like, for example, the term Savinyanaka Kaya, the body with consciousness, is also used in that sense. And like I said just now, Mano is the coordinator of the 5 senses. As for rebirth process, Vijnana is usually used. Chitta is seldom used, only rarely. This is based on Rune Johansson's article in one journal I think it's a journal of University of Ceylon. The paper is called Chitta Mano Vijnana, a psycho-semantic investigation. Okay, that's it. Finish for our explanation on Chitta. Any questions before we go on to guided meditation on how to practice Chittanupassana?